Donald Trump's meltdown on social media just backfired in his face, and it seems he's created a new potential defamation lawsuit against himself, where he will have waived any type of immunity he may otherwise have been given by the United States Supreme Court. This relates to E Jean Carroll. Donald Trump attacked E Jean Carroll once again, saying that she brought a, quote, fake case against him after the United States Supreme Court declined to hear his last and final opportunity to appeal the verdict against him, where he was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation in a case brought by E Jean Carroll against him. You'll recall that separately, E Jean Carroll brought another case against him for defamation, where Donald Trump basically said that she had a fake case. In that other case for defamation, she received a verdict in excess of $90 million. And when you add the interest, it'll be in the hundreds of millions of dollars potentially against Donald Trump. But the defamation case that she prevailed on essentially argued that she was being defamed by Donald Trump because it was now been adjudicated that she was indeed a victim of sexual abuse, of sexual assault by Donald Trump. And he's saying that she's a liar, that she conjures lies to make false accusations of sexual abuse, and that by being called that, it's defaming her character. And so the whole other $100 million case that she prevailed on against Donald Trump, which based on the Supreme Court's action in declining to hear Trump's appeal, in this case, tells you that they'll likely, in my opinion, decline to hear the case involving the other defamation, because they didn't hear this one defamation. Why would they hear the other one? So now, especially because the Supreme Court has declined to hear Donald Trump's appeal on this issue of defamation against him, or the defamation case that was brought against him, and the sexual abuse case. I mean, it basically gives E Jean Carroll what we would refer to in the law as res judicata, or, it's been stipulated that she's prevailed in a federal court. Trump's been adjudicated to have sexually abused her. A jury's already found that Trump defamed her by claiming that she was making up false accusations. And so E Jean Carroll may not want to bring another defamation case against him. She just may not want to go through the process, but she would have a case right away, in my opinion, to say, Trump's run out of appeals. He can't even claim anymore that there isn't this like a estoppel of a finding that's already been made by a jury. And I think E Jean Carroll would say, let's just go on to damages. The only issue remaining is how much. Now, Donald Trump has made so many comments about E Jean Carroll that, frankly, I feel like if she wanted to, she could go in there and bring multiple cases. Now, Donald Trump maybe tries to argue, well, I'm immune. I have immunity because I made this statement from the White House. Well, he's tried that before in this context. No, this is in your personal capacity. You're not saying this in the capacity of the United States. I'll show you the statement that he made where I think he tries to get immunity, because he's like, it's an attack against the United States. But I don't think there would be any immunity because it's in his personal capacity from his personal social media account. Now, E Jean Carroll may be waiting until she has a statute of limitations where she could potentially wait another, year or two. I think from this post, she may be waiting until after his term is up but he's going after her, remember, and launching a criminal investigation against her, even though now the Supreme Court doesn't even hear the case. Think about how frivolous the criminal investigation is against E Jean Carroll. But here was Trump's post. Surprisingly, the Supreme Court declined to review a fake case brought against me by a woman I never met. I'll continue to fight against weaponization, including this ridiculous claim of defamation. This case is really against the United States of America and all it stands for, and should never be allowed to happen. I mean, just think about what a sick statement that is. That you being found liable for sexually assaulting a woman and then defaming your sexual assault victim is a case against the United States of America. I think he's also saying that, though, to try to make an argument down the line for immunity. But also, he's a sicko. And I think he genuinely feels that he is the country, that him sexually assaulting a woman and being found liable for it is what the United States does. That the U.S., like him, is a sexual predator, and you challenge him, you challenge the United. I mean, it's a sick way to think about it, but he doesn't get immunity here, in my opinion. She clearly has a claim against him. The issue is, does she want to even deal with it? You know, she's already won a $90 million verdict, and that she's likely going to be able to collect on. And because Trump has grifted so much in office and he's made so much money, he's actually liquid, and she'll be able to recover it now. Remember, he had to post a bond. I think he posted the bond with Chubb or one of these companies where he's posted a bond for the money. So it's sitting there and earning interest at it like 8%, you know? And so, you know, we'll see what she does, but I want to bring in Harry Littman to get your perspective, Harry, because, you know, he did it again. I mean, this is what the other case was about, him making posts like this about her. And now the Supreme Court's not hearing it. I don't think he has immunity. What do you make of it, Harry?
Look, just for starters, every single one of these statements by him is a huge self-inflicted wound. He winds up arguing later, oh, it was really an official act. But from his being on the White House lawn and being just a jerk, saying she's not my type, and the various defamations that he did gratuitously. The second one was an obvious one, and that is the one that has resulted in this big verdict. He's more than a sicko. He's like a completely intemperate and also ignorant sicko. So he's actually saying here to the Supreme Court, I'm surprised. How can you not do this? And as well as the Supreme Court has treated him, he literally just doesn't understand. The Supreme Court famously, canonically, does not sit to try to correct verdicts that Trump thinks they got wrong or anyone thinks they got wrong. I was a clerk there. You write memos. The very first thing you say to make it all go away, fact bound. There's no broader legal principle. And for Trump, the broader and broadest legal principle is, I was hurt. You helped me. But it's like, it's like the mob boss bringing in the lieutenant and saying, I want you to shoot someone at Times Square in the, at midnight on New Year's Eve. Like, boss, I can't do that. I'm going to get arrested. In a similar way, what he's saying here, this is not something the Supreme Court ever would do for him. And if he had even the slightest sophistication, or someone who did, that this wouldn't be a time for him to try to tar the Supreme Court, that, by the way, has been very good to him. This second point. So this lawsuit, this is the smaller one. Zip, there's nothing to be said about some broader legal issue. Taking it would be scandalous. It would be only to do Donald Trump a solid. I mean, it would be an absolute self-inflicted wound by the Supreme Court. Okay, now what he's talking about with l'état c'est moi, he's again mangled it three different ways, but there's an argument in the case that he did while president that he was actually acting in his official capacity. But that argument, Ben, so that's what he's really saying. And he's going to want to say the next time this works its way up to the Supreme Court, that's the important principle to take. But he waived it more than once. It's in a very complicated posture. Would make no sense for the court to take it either. And that's, again, what Trump is saying. Hey, 90 million, you got to really save my ass here, Supreme Court. What do I pay you for, basically? And, he's just so completely unsophisticated, ignorant about how even his allies or pals could work. So, this is, from the start, it's been such a kind of Trumpian display. He can't shut up. He can't stop himself from digging deeper holes. He's the luckiest son of a bitch in the world that, there's no possible criminal action, but defamation, if he does it in his personal capacity, and certainly if he does it when he's not president, he doesn't get a bye. And he really, I'm sure his lawyers, worst client in the world, Donald Trump, are tearing out their hair. It would have been so easy to avoid this, but he just doesn't know the difference. And the notion that at the end of this day, the Supreme Court somehow will save him, it's just a bozo the clown kind of idea.
Truly is. And to be continued, because I suspect E Jean Carroll is going to wait to the end of the term, see what happens with the midterms. Really, right now, she probably even has a malicious prosecution on the criminal investigation. I know that she doesn't want, perhaps, to even deal with this stress and crap anymore in her life, because especially while Trump has Republicans controlling all branches. But I do think she's probably looking at several $100 million in verdicts, that she could possibly get as a result of the behavior. You compound it with criminal investigations against her. And it's, and I hate to think crudely as a plaintiff's lawyer, thinking about the value to extract of a case of deeply serious issues where accountability needs to lead. But sometimes that's where Trump feels accountability in the pocketbook, in the wallet, and hitting him with billion-dollar verdicts. She uniquely has those causes of action right now. So we'll leave it at that. Everybody subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. So search Talking Feds. Put in the comments on one of Harry's videos that Ben says hi, so he knows we sent you. Harry, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Ben.
And subscribe here. Let's get to 7 million.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.